Hello, Micah Nori. It's Paul Allen. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, PA. I'm doing great. How are you?
On that 2.5 hour sleep, hopefully that all you guys do is win, pumped you up a little bit like the musical version of a double espresso with a French roast charge. Did it do the trick?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that musical version of a double espresso with a French roast charge was akin to the Minnesota Timberwolves defense last night because all they do is win. And they're up in the second round series against the world champions 2-0. Many see it as up 2-0 with the way the games have developed. And last night in the Mile Get High City, it was one of the most dominating performances in the history of Minnesota Timberwolves basketball. Specifically defensively, it was a 106-82 victory. And here he is, the man walking the sideline is Chris Finch's lead assistant, Micah Nori, who indeed is with us now. Micah loves one-liners, by the way. And welcome home. Did you guys fly back on an airplane or like float in exaltation?
It was a little bit of both, just a mix of both, but absolutely no one worried about or was upset about taking that late night flight and getting back home around 3:34 this morning. So it was a very good trip, obviously, out to Denver.
Channeling our inner Micah Nori right now, and it goes like this. The Nuggets were like a person on the beach with no sunscreen, or a kid on a roller coaster with no restraining bar or harness, or a custodial worker who was just fed up with cleaning the toilets and the flush handle hasn't worked for a couple of days. Chris called it the best defensive effort of the year, and it came without the new daddy, Rudy Gobert. What's the read with that, Mr. Micah?
I think, Finchy, number one, great job. I should steal some of your stuff for sure. You can tell you're the professional with the one-liners. But I think when Finchy was saying that it was the best defensive effort of the year, he was dead on. And I think he also made mention of it in his post-game that a lot of that has to do with Rudy and the carryover that he has and just the way that he has made defense such an important part of what we do. He's always been when he's on the floor, he's obviously patrolling it. But even in film sessions, practices, he's always harping on the defensive end. And it's funny because last night those guys flew around, and I don't know if if they were all doing that to help, bring Romeo in with the win, Rudy's son. But I tell you, it was just one heck of an effort by that whole group, and they were flying around all night long. Our players were. All
right, Micah Nori, novice question here. Like in game one, Elston Turner, the defensive coordinator, and you guys and your entire staff, you clearly crafted some defensive plays off the pick and roll where Jokic got all the attention, in essence, letting the ball handler penetrate the paint, knowing your strong safety, your free safety, your final line of defense, Stifle Tower, Rudy Gobert was by the basket. Okay, and it was just weird watching guys dribble uncovered down the key, but it made sense. Did you lose that last night? Like what had to change off that?
I think last night we kind of tried to keep the same game plan. Number one, to see we didn't want to make any adjustment before we needed to. So we kind of kept the same plan. However, I think the urgency of each player you could see. It's nice when you have Rudy Gobert behind you. I mean, you have the best defensive player in the world back helping, protecting you in the paint. When he's not there, what that means is the guy on the ball and then also the other help defenders around it are just on that much more high alert. A lot of times our guys can fall into a trap, and I mean, I hate to say it, but rightfully so. They know that Rudy's going to cover up a lot of things. So at times you even see guys somewhat rest when they're not involved in the action because, oh, shoot, the guy on the ball has it and Rudy's going to get it. But last night we had a higher awareness level, if you will, without Rudy on the floor. And, I know that term gets overused, but all five defensive players being on a string and being in tune and doing their job, they did that for 48 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it really, a lot of it, correct me if I'm wrong here, Micah, goes back to the very beginning of fundamentals with defense where it's like, ball, man, and like you ball, man, where you point to three entities. And it's like everybody's following that, right?
Absolutely. And I think that, when you talk about Nikhil, when you talk about Ant, and you talk about Jaden, those guys, and then obviously Mike Conley does what he does, and everybody. But those three guys in particular, I mean, they can guard 1 through 4, and definitely can guard 1 through 3. So when you can switch, and then when those guys are able to stay in front of their guys and they, like you said, stay ball, man, and then ultimately rim behind that, it's just it's really tough and difficult for the Nuggets, not just for them but for everybody, because they have a hard time breaking those guys down individually. And if you can't go around them, and if they're defeating screens and getting over top of screens, you're at the, you get into a lot of late clock situations, which is what happened to the Nuggets last night.
Now, Micah was with Chris Finch when they were together in Denver, and then rumor has it from back in your Denver days, you and Nikola Jokic are or were quite close. Did he happen to shoot you a text after the game like, bro, enough with the swarming, smothering defense? I mean, I know you have a high level of respect for him, as do I and as do most. But I'd imagine cutting off the head of that beast is a good place to start to win back-to-back road games against the champs. What are some keys to playing the Joker?
I think, number one, you have to decide if you want to take him out, or excuse me, let me restart. You have to decide if you want him to score all the points for them. And what I mean by that is if you're going to play him straight up, if you play him straight up, he's very, very good. Obviously, you have to defend him without fouling. And we have guys, actually 4 of them, meaning Rudy, Kyle, Cat, and Nas, that we can throw at him, and they all give him a little bit different look. And so if you play him straight up, make it difficult for him. And if you play him one-on-one, he will shoot the ball more. Or you decide you don't want to let him score or have that opportunity, and then you double him in the post. And the one thing that Nikola Jokic does, and I think one of the reasons it makes him, what's probably going to be a 3rd-time MVP here come Wednesday, is that he'll always make the right play. So if you play him single coverage, he'll try to score. But if you double team him, he will pass the ball, and he will pass the ball where it's supposed to go. So you know that you're going to get it out of his hands, and then you're at the, you're hoping that the other guys won't make shots. So what we've done a very good job of this series, I feel, is switching up who we put on him. Also with Nas and even with Kyle, those guys are a little bit quicker of foot. They can try to front him, and then you also have Rudy back behind and Cat back behind. So that's another layer of protection there. But we've done a very good job of mixing up the double teams and also the single coverage. And not only you're not going to trick Nikola Jokic, he's seen all of it, but what that does do is that puts a little bit more onus on the players around him to recognize what we're doing. Oh, they're single covering, so now or they doubling him, so now do I have to cut? Do I have to stay? Do I have to do something else? So just trying to give him different looks, and then at the end of the day, try and decide what you want to do. Do you want to make him try to score 50, or do you want to make him score 20 with 10 assists or whatnot? So just mixing that up has been it's worked well for us thus far.
Amen to all that. That's amazing. Micah Nori, Chris Finch's lead assistant. He's the one manning the sideline with the head coach hobbled. And Micah, Chris, and that staff have just done wonderful work with these Minnesota Timberwolves. And you mentioned Rudy Gobert, Micah. What was yesterday like? Like at what point did you know Gobert would not be part of the mix?
I think it was sometime after shoot around when there were high winds in Denver. It just wasn't going to work out for him to get out there. He was trying to get out there if he could, for sure. But that's the one thing that's about this group. And I know, again, not to overstate it, but it's a resilient group. And we've had guys in and out of the lineup all year. We missed Cat for a long stretch there at the end, and Nas Reed stepped up, as did the other guys. The few games that Anthony Edwards missed, Rudy's missed a couple games before, and he missed a Denver game. Actually, the last Denver home game, I think it was Cat, Nas, and Rudy all missed. And we were down in that game, but we got all the way back, and it was like a one-possession game, obviously. So I think that gave us some confidence playing without Rudy. But not only that, it's just these guys, they really do have that mentality of next man up. We got to make sure that we are more on point defensively with Rudy. With Rudy being out, that also presents some problems for Denver almost for a longer period of time because they had to defend both Cat and Nas at the same time. And when you talk about 2 shooting bigs like that, it really stretches out their defense and really exposes some of the things that they're trying to do as well. So, again, just focus on the positives, supporting Rudy, great time in his life with his first son being born. So we're all happy for him. He FaceTimed the locker room right after the game. And just a really fun group of guys to be around. And obviously at this time when you're winning basketball games, it makes it that much more fun.
Micah Nori, you mentioned Karl Anthony Towns. Karl is calm. Karl is calming like Naz Reid when he's set to unload on a ref. Karl was a dominating force last night on both ends of the court. What are some keys to the igniting of Karl Anthony Towns?
I think a couple things. One, it's hard to decide. It's hard to double team or put two people defensively on two different guys in the same game. And what I mean by that is that just takes a lot of energy. If you're going to try to double team Karl Anthony Towns in the post, and you're going to try to double team or blitz Anthony Edwards and pick and roll, to do that defensively, that takes a lot of effort. So what Denver's tried to do is play Karl Anthony Towns more straight up. They will help a little bit late when they switch a smaller defender on him, but we can't forget. I know Minnesotans don't, and obviously most NBA people don't, but Karl Anthony Towns, especially, we've always known at the offensive, again, what type of unicorn he is, the way he can do things inside, outside, the way he can score the ball. But he's also doing an unbelievable job, and it carried over from Phoenix on the defensive end. But things are just going well for Karl. He's in a very good place. He's leaving refs alone. He's finding his spots. His spacing has been very, very good. And I think that he is even getting a little bit of offensive uptick, if you will, if that's even possible for him, just from all the defensive stuff that he's doing. So it's been we're seeing as good a Karl Anthony Towns as we've seen for daggone sure. And that's 50 points in an all-star game, Karl Anthony Towns.
Well, I think it's the best he's played of his career. I mean, he is specifically because I remember, when you guys were feeding Rudy Gobert a lot at certain stages of the season, and then Chris would come on the show and talk about, how Rudy is being calm and how he's being methodical with the feet and his moves down low. And that's Karl right now, isn't it? I mean, because the elbows go to flailing, sometimes it looks super awkward, but it just seems more in control when he's making those low post moves, right?
Oh, there's no doubt. And I think, a perfect microcosm of that was in the first half last night. He goes 8 for 11, 2 for 3 from three. He's got 5 rebounds so 20 points and 5 rebounds in 24 minutes. Or he played 18 of those minutes in the first half and only 1 turnover, which is great for him. And not only that, only 1 foul. He didn't pick up any cheap fouls. He's frustrating guys at the defensive end. He's taking his time and being patient. That's what, Finchie and Pablo and Corliss Williamson and all those guys harp to him, those guys that work with him the most on the offensive end. And he's just been the best version of Karl Anthony Towns, which is, all NBA caliber first team. So, what are the benefits of that?
Well, you mentioned the first half, Micah. Micah Nori is our guest lead assistant for Chris Finch. Timberwolves up 2-0 on the world champions. In the first half, the Nuggets had 6 made field goals and 6 turnovers. It's astounding. You're putting it on them, no doubt, and you got to earn it. But it has to be more than no Rudy, no problem. Let's roll it out there, and the magic will just happen. You touched on it a little bit earlier, but I'm sure you've seen it during your career. When somebody significant like Gobert is eliminated from the equation day of the game for whatever the reason, sometimes players can be shell shocked and try to do too much or we won first game, let's get back home and see what happens tonight. But that was not the case specifically in that first half, was it?
No, not at all. I think we predominantly played just 7 guys. Monte Morris only played a few minutes in that first half, and he contributed when he was on the floor. So when you're talking about that starting 5 of Karl and Kyle Anderson was the fill-in for Rudy last night with Jaden and Anthony and Mike, and then the other 2 guys, Nikhil and Naz. You've got a ton of athleticism. And the other thing is you've got a ton of guys, and even Anthony Edwards too now, you talk about his two-way, but guys that enjoy playing defense. And Mike Conley, Ant, Jaden, Naz, and even Cat since the Phoenix series and late in the year. But just that, I guess it's just as a competitive nature of these guys. They've heard about Jamal. We've shown it to nauseum Jamal making 2 game winners against the Lakers. We've shown Michael Porter Jr. making threes in transition and us losing him. And obviously we've shown them Nicola. So half of it is probably that they're just probably sick and tired of us showing them all the good things that those guys can do. And they're just like, look, okay, here's what, take this and here you go. But when those guys are locked in like they have been,
wow.
And again, being able to fly around, the one thing it does do when we don't have Rudy on the floor is that you can switch 1 through 4 with Carl at the 5 more.
Yep.
And it's just really difficult for guys to get advantages to get downhill. But, no, absolutely. That was about as impressive as, I mean, not only for us this season, as Cincy said, and I totally agree, but you're not going to find, you can go back to, I don't care how far you want to go back to whatever team you want to see. That defensive effort by those guys was unbelievable.
Amen. I mean, I at the end of the equation, how many shot clock violations? I mean, I stopped counting at 4. Are you kidding me with that?
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. And then there was some where they would get up a shot, and because the shots were so wild at times, I mean, in all honesty, they would get an offensive rebounds just because they were like shots that don't normally, and they were missing, long shots, long rebounds. So they would get those. And then there'd be another, almost like you say, shot clock. So we were playing essentially at times 38 seconds of just lockdown defense in a possession. And for those of us that have all been watching, I mean, against what could be argued the best team in the world, is pretty impressive.
Just a couple more. Thank you, Micah Nori, lead assistant for Chris Finch and the Minnesota Timberwolves. And, you mentioned Kyle Anderson, slow-mo. Slow-mo when Andre Kirilenko on the bit last night, man. 6 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals, and a block. Arm stretching from Maui to Maine to get fingers on balls. What are some of the under-the-radar facets of Kyle's game you really like last night?
Well, I think everybody calls him slow-mo because, he doesn't move as fleet of foot as some say. But, you could also say that slow-mo stands for slow motion is how the game goes to him. And what I mean by that is he's brilliant basketball mind. He is, and basketball is made up of combinations. Like that's what good teams are. It's like, how do the combinations work? And him going in for Rudy and being that point person, we can switch with him. He's a guy that is a very good passer. The way that they're being up with Anthony Edwards and pick and roll, now you have Kyle Anderson rolling essentially, so he's the one that's open. And when we get him the ball, same thing. He always makes the right play because usually if there's 2 on Ant, that means once Ant gets off of it, it's 4 on 3. You got to find the open man. Kyle does that as well as anybody. He's always under control. He is a guy that can guard 1 through 5. And when I say that, it's just the advantage that we have with so many guys able to guard multiple positions. What that allows you to do is switch. You don't have to send help once you do switch. They can stay, to your point, PA, man, ball, you in front. So we don't have to send help. And Kyle's one of those guys that is right there at the forefront of that does it more with his length and his intuition and knowing the game plan and knowing the league and which way guys want to go. And then he's always in the right spot. And then he can use that length, that wingspan to get the flex. And you saw it last night, even when he got switched on to Nicola and just, batted the ball off his leg and this type of thing. He's always getting strips in the paint and stealing pocket passes because he's always in the right place. He does have great hands. He's got great length. And he's just another one of those guys that, jack of all trades. You can put him on any of those guys and you're going to be fine.
Last one, my brother. Thank you very much, too. Was with the refs. What was last night with the refs an absolute let them play edict? And if so, how much does that help you guys, given the physical brand of ball you guys play?
Absolutely. I think that, number one, answering the second part first, yes, that helps us immensely because we do have physical defenders. We do have guys that are capable to defend, number one. And if you let them be physical or let them put their hands on them longer than just the tactile touch, which is like what they call hot stove, we just barely touch them and get off. But if we're allowed to leave our hands on guys a little bit longer or grab or be a little bit more physical, I hate to say it, but they're going to have anybody would have a very difficult time of getting around our guys and trying to score and getting into offense. But and I don't know. The only question I had, I don't say much to the refs. I mean, obviously when they're letting us play, there's not much to say. But Jamal Murray throws a heat pack on the floor last night, And I asked the ref, I said, that's got to be a technical foul. They throw a heat pack on the floor. He said, well, I don't know who threw it. I said, well, I've been in this league for 26 years. I haven't seen a fan bring a heat pack to a game in my life. So I said, it had to come from their bench, so it's got to be somebody. And I think the level of frustration that our players, and you saw that from the world champs, for them to be as frustrated as they were, I think that that's a tribute to our guys and what they've done. They just continue to play. They've left the refs alone. I will be honest. I mean, I know the refs' names, but they're not listening to me anyway, so it does me no good to yell at them. Finchie's so far back, he really can't say much, and our guys aren't saying a whole lot. So in hindsight, it kind of lets us just focus on the game and that type of thing and leave the refs alone, and you can just see it and you can watch that, especially in that first half where they were rattled and they were bothered. I mean, you even think about it, and rightfully so. At one time in the game, in the third quarter, we had 7 timeouts and they had 2. So we didn't have to take a timeout until, the third quarter mandatory there under 3 minutes. And that just is, obviously Coach Malone's doing everything he can. He's a great coach. He's taking time out to try to get things settled down and back under control.
Yeah.
But that just kind of shows you the defensive, impact that those guys had and just trying to find something that would work for them. So great night overall. It's always good to see all the guys contribute. It's good to see guys in the right place, and to be over there to get 2. What we have to do now is come back home, protect home court. We've done nothing. We know this team, we're going to get their best shot. They got the best player in the world. They are the world champs. So Friday night, late start in Minnesota, that place is going to be hopping over there at Target Center.
And I'll be in the building with my son, and I can't wait. You guys are terrific, man. You're terrific. Likewise for Chris and the work the staff, everybody all the way through Farnham has done to this point is second to none. And I appreciate you getting up early to join 9 to noon. Have a wonderful day, okay?
Yeah, I get up anytime to talk to you, buddy. I always enjoy it. Thank you very much for having me.
See you, bud. Liner! Through 6 games of the NBA playoffs, there's not a better team than the Minnesota Timberwolves. Through 6 games of the NBA playoffs, there is not a better team in the association right now than the Minnesota Timberwolves. Not the Boston Celtics, not OKC, not the New York Knicks, not Luka, Kyrie, and Dallas. And honestly, it's not even a debate to this stage. Defense, offense, Ant, Cat, no Rudy, no problem. To this stage, it's not a discussion. And it's very compelling and intriguing to see where it goes from here. The Timberwolves opening a 2-game lead on the champs is the A topic. Beating the champs on the road without the heart and soul of your defense and Rudy Gobert is astounding and eye-opening and amazing, and it's the 1A. Behind that is the world champion Denver Nuggets becoming so frustrated and panic-stricken and childlike. We had Coach Mike Malone running on the court to F-bomb a ref. Jokic elbowing Naz Reid in the chin, knowing it would be an offensive foul and not caring. And multiple, at least 4 shot clock violations where the stifling Timberwolves defense was just too ferocious. And Jamal Murray is out here throwing heating pads on the court during plays. 2-0 or 2-whoa. You howl for us, baby. That's Matt, producer, the master mixer of the Monday montage on a Timberwolves Talker Tuesday. That montage will be played back later along with the Micah Nori interview because all we do is win, 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 win. And why won't they win Friday night? Seriously. All right, timbertech.com. What's on deck 9 to noon includes football in the middle with the Scribe. That's at 10 o'clock. Kevin Lynch in studio. He analyzes basketball, assumedly for profit. He'll be in studio at about 11 o'clock, and I'm Paul Allen. This is your Timberwolves Talker Tuesday leader, The Fan, and KFAN.com, where we are looking for talkbacks for segment number 3. Howl and share your adoration, respect, love, and astonishment in said howl via the free iHeartRadio app. Talkback now. It's very easy. You can figure it out. And we'll play those back about 20, 25 minutes from now. A Timberwolves Talkback. We text and talk back more than people know. Talker Tuesday on KFAN, which also is your cash giveaway leader.
The Fan and BigDeck.com want to give you a chance to put $1,000 in your hand with the National Cash Contest. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword grand. You might win $1,000. The keyword is grand at KFAN.com.
And what we got here?
Let's see if I can say it without cracking my voice. Howl bites! No, I couldn't do it.
Howl bites.
Voice cracked. Hello, and welcome back 9 to noon.
Hi.
I'm your prepubescent producer, Eric Nordquist, and it's Howl Bites.
Yep.
Normally, Vikes Bites, we love the purple, and Ben Gessling is in studio at 10 o'clock. But Thousand Hills Lifetime Graze grass-fed beef is bringing you some Howl Bites just a morning after last night's dominating performance in Denver. And one of the things you guys were talking about towards the end of your conversation with Micah Nori, Wolves assistant, which you'll get to hear later in the show as well, is the refereeing, PA. And it was so obvious that there was a course correction into Game 2 after Game 1. The league had already announced that it had rescinded the technical foul on Anthony Edwards from Game 1. Shouldn't have been a technical. People arguing, hey, Anthony's staring at a guy. We got finger guns from Jamal spinning around on the floor at Cat, but somehow that's not a technical. Well, you want to talk about a correction. Last night, PA, with the lack of fouls, heating pads being thrown, head coaches clearing the bench to scream and get in referees' faces, no technicals there. I want to hit you with this. If they call the game and allow the physical play that they did in the first half last night, will the Wolves go 16-0 and win themselves a title?
I can't say yes because it's too much of prognosticating through the NBA Finals, where I'm still recovering from being hit over the head by this metaphorical 2x4 that we are witnessing. So the answer would be yes, because the looser the refs let the games go. I mean, Micah Nori said it, forget my stupid opinion. Micah Nori, the lead assistant, said, yeah, I mean, with the physical brand the Minnesota Timberwolves provide, it absolutely plays into their favor.
He says, if you let us be a little more physical, I hate to say it, but anybody will have a difficult time getting around us.
That's anybody. That's Jason Tatum. That's assumedly Jalen Brunson, Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, certainly Nikola Jokic and or Jamal Murray. And, with Howl Bites we are unfurling, I have the Nuggets bite as part of Howl Bites for some contributions. Like Aaron Gordon was minus 33 last night and is a minus 56 in the series. When they asked him to run the point, it wasn't point AG, it was RIP, because that had some hoisting of the white flag to it.
L. My question on Aaron Gordon, quick aside, and a mini Howl Bite. As this series plays out, aren't you okay with Aaron Gordon taking the shots he took last night?
Yeah.
Get your 20 points, Aaron. That's fine. Absolutely. Go to the line, shoot 60% from the line. Totally cool with that.
Yeah.
Because that means someone else isn't getting paid. In this particular case, Jamal Murray, who was 3 of 18.
Yeah, he's playing hurt, man.
From the floor. I mean, he looks rough out there.
Yeah, it's awful. I mean, because he's a bastion of basketball excellence. And it's, the combo between Murray nursing his calf. I'm going to bring this up with Kevin Lynch later. Every shot Jamal Murray takes is off one foot. And it's not just layups. It's jump shots. I mean, he's favoring something. And the Timberwolves, in ruthless fashion, are putting immense stress on what is ailing Jamal Murray. I mean, he's absolutely playing in fear of his calf popping. With those shots off one leg. He was 3 of 18 last night and is 9 of 32 in the series. The only time he gets to the basket is when McDaniels feels bad for him. L.
Reggie Jackson's calf, we saw him leave. Does that even play into it a bit more so? They play they have such a thin bench. You got Christian Brown coming in there, probably playing more minutes than they would like. Peyton Watson. We were talking yesterday about, Mike Singer comes in and is like, they're already thinking maybe we need to put Peyton Watson on Anthony Edwards to play defense for extended periods of time. With this layoff over the next couple of days, bringing the series to Minnesota, Reggie Jackson's calf. something to pay attention to. A Micah Nori quote, whether we're doing timber bites or Mike the HVAC guy texts in, it should be wolf bites.
Wolf bites.
Wolf bites!
Wolf bites.
Ooh, I like that.
Me
and thank
too.
you, Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef at your local Co-op or Coburn's locations. Elite beef. Jaden McDaniels, 2 of 14 in the series. Offensively, it's just been a black hole with the when it comes to offense. But he's been an even more destructive black hole on defense, as I think he's leading the team. He's like plus 50 when he's on the court, PA.
Jeez.
So he's not supplying the offense, but he's been as engaged, fought through foul trouble, actually just kind of stormed off. He was so mad when he got his 5th foul last night. Then you see him a few minutes later back on the court locking people down. That play where he and I think it was Nikhil teamed up on Jamal Murray. And I don't know what universe in recent NBA years in which there isn't a foul that comes out of that. Somehow Jamal is left limping and screaming at the ref.
Yeah. And
the Wolves are headed the other way post turnover with the ball. Or maybe that was one of the handful of shot clock violations. I don't remember. But Jaden McDaniels, plus 26 last night. He's something like plus 50 in this series. Ridiculous play defensively despite not being able to find a bucket.
The imagery that you just created with Jaden McDaniels. Take those who follow, take the minds back 13 months ago. For the true metamorphosis of the full circle of what Tim Connolly, Chris Finch, Micah Nori, and the staff have done with this team.
Yeah.
Go back 13 months. The last time anybody remembers Jaden McDaniels walking into a tunnel back to a locker room during a game.
Oh, I was focused on it.
They were playing a can't-lose game. I mean, they needed the game late in the season against maybe San Antonio, a bad team, like they needed to breathe. So 13 months ago, we had Rudy Gobert and Slow-Mo fighting each other on the bench in a home game in front of people who paid money, real money, to sit in those seats to watch that Civil War. And as Jaden McDaniels was walking back to the locker room to nurse assumedly what was a bad ankle, he punched like some draping.
Yeah.
And behind it was steel or concrete, and he basically broke his wrist.
Yep.
And was unavailable for the postseason. That's these guys that you are watching right now. From a civil war to civil unrest in the streets of the Mile Get High city. And thank heavens they have dispensaries because they need them.
Wolf Bites! Brought to you by Thousand Hills Lifetime Graze. My last thing for you here. Is this riding a moment or is this real? Wolves are currently plus 290 to win the NBA title, PA. The Celtics are even money.
Yep.
And then it is the Minnesota Timberwolves at plus 290.
Yep.
I believe it is OKC behind there, somewhere in the neighborhood of 7-1. I don't have that on my sheet. Is that real or riding the emotions of what we've seen over the last 3-4 days?
Oh, it's real because it's money, and money is real. And it's people wagering their hard-earned money. And these are sharps who are playing this.
This is not me putting $50 in.
50, 100, 500 ain't going to move the meter.
No.
These are $5,000 to $25,000 wagers that are coming in all over the place on the HAL. And I'm going to amplify it and take it a step farther. David Handelin, Superstats Dave, Alan Horton's main man for stats for home games, he texted me this a little while ago. I mean, this is the Timberwolves to win the Western Conference and get to the NBA Finals, just to get to it. They, I think via DraftKings or certainly FanDuel, one of the two, they are now a minus 115 favorite. Oklahoma City to get to the NBA Finals is plus 280. I mean, that means you're having to put up 115 of your dollars to win 100 of the casino's, of the sportsbook's dollars for a scoop of 225. They've gone to prohibitive favorites in the reality of the wagering world, because it's real money, to represent the Western Conference in the NBA Finals. I stick by what I said. Through 6 games, there is not a better team in the NBA. It's not close. It's not worth debate. Offensively, defensively, and superstardom and everything that goes into it. Boston, Knicks, Dallas, OKC, Denver, whomever. There's not a better team right now. Now, we still got more games to play, but that's the status as of now. The Howl Bites, fantastic. Wolf Bites, fantastic. And we thank you for those because the champions had at least 4 shot clock violations, meaning the Wolves' defense was, as Jamal Crawford put it, analyzing with Kevin Harlan, our defense is like braces on crooked teeth.
I always love that one.
Amen to that, Jamal. The Timberwolves' defense is that of a collective straitjacket, and it for sure is driving the Nuggets insane. Your talkbacks around the corner. This is KFAN.
What's up, fellas? Good morning. Just have to say, I used to be a huge NBA fan until about 15, 20 years ago, and it's just been a lazy ISO sport with a bunch of flopping. I've been watching this Wolves team now for most of this season. I cannot believe what I'm seeing. The brand of basketball they're playing, the team basketball, moving the ball, playing great defense. It's like watching an incredible college basketball team play that style with these high-level athletes. It's amazing.
That's a beautiful talkback because the regular season in all sports, it's dramatically different than the postseason, at least from an intensity standpoint, certainly in all sports. But I think it's most visible, it's most palpable in the NFL and the NBA, specifically the NBA. The Timberwolves in patches this year, established themselves giving up like 106 points a game, tops in the association. But they established themselves when they put their minds on the money, and the money was on their minds, that they have the best defense in the NBA. And I said this in the Phoenix series that being an NBA snob, that's something with which I did not necessarily always agree. And I was hit with a lot of these metrics and at the end of the equation, I hoisted the white flag on the conversation because I was wrong. There just were some eye tests / visuals during the course of the season where I'm like, hey, I've seen Jordan, I've seen T.R. Dunn, Fat Lever, Bruce Bowen, some of the Dikembe Mutombo setting up block shots and manning the weak side. Andre Kirilenko, who I referenced earlier in the show with the steals and the blocks and the slithery nature. And at times, that wasn't it. This is it. Every play of every game. And the question would be fairly, when eventually they're going to get punched. Eventually they're going to get punched repeatedly in games, and given human nature gets to win, and that's reality, there will be a game or games where they get punched, they're down, they're on the road, they're kicking the ball, they're not getting the calls, and they have to fight back from that. And we've seen it in patches, like game 1 they're up 18-4, and then Jokic and Murray and the rest of the gang started unfurling these haymakers. Now all of a sudden the Nuggets are leading. Moments like that, but just a little different because they're handling every jab, uppercut, haymaker, any punch that's coming at them. They have the right defense. It's the best defense in the NBA, and it's not even close.
Well, it was interesting yesterday talking with Finch that he expected them to have a hot start last night, the Nuggets. And a big part of that, he mentioned a bunch of it's going to be in transition.
Yeah.
Well, what happened? There was no transition last
night. They tried.
They had absolutely nothing to work with.
Right.
Another talkback. Thank you to all of these, by the way, with the free iHeartRadio app. Appreciate you listening wherever you are.
Yo, PA and Nordo, Steve in Florida. Like I said yesterday, the Wolves are in charge. It's the Nuggets that have to go ahead and try to figure things out and work their game around what the Wolves do. The person that's gaining the most, or one of the people gaining the most by this whole thing, is Zach Edey. He's a big copycat league. He's going to be a lottery pick and not wait to go in the second round any longer. Go Wolves.
You know what's cool about that is I didn't know we had Boilermaker boosters that listen to 9 to noon. So best of luck to Edie. Let's talk back, machine. Thank you, Steve.
Well, that was a good one.
Man, that was ridiculous, boys.
That was elite.
They were letting them play last night. I never seen such suffocating defense. They had no chance. Let's go.
Well, just if you want to go down the road of Minnesota can't have nice things, this never happens to Minnesota, being a Minnesota sports fan, whoever sees anything like this, The answer would be not many and rarely. But how about this? I mean, we got all the calls last night.
All of them.
All of them. Porter, Gordon, whomever going to the basket and selling, I got fouled. Foul! With the flailing arms.
Yeah.
And Mark Davis and his staff just being like, no, let's go the other way. So when they did put pressure on the Timberwolves by attacking the basket, and the best thing to do in slowing an on-charging metaphorical train, as the NBA goes, is to get to the basket, get a foul, get to the line, slow the game. And they were trying. And the Wolves' defense was handsy, but it was handsy without getting called for being overly handsy. So bottle that mug for the next time in any Wolves game or any sport. You're like, Minnesota teams never get any calls. I mean, what Karl Anthony Towns did twice to Jamal Murray, first when he walked and then when he ran over him, well, that's a felony in 48 states, but obviously not Colorado. And those were two of the worst missed calls we've seen all season.
Yeah.
But what does it do to the adversary? The adversary already is getting waylaid. The adversary already has been on the canvas 3 times. And now all of a sudden you're telling me they get to do that and there's going to be no call? I mean, that's everybody index fingers in the air as if you're saying number one or indicating number one, and then make it a limp. Boo! Dauber down in Denver.
Well, and that's the key, too. I'm split. You know, you mentioned getting all the calls, and it is those two, whether it's Malone on the court, throwing the heat pad. I'm curious how the league assesses. Like, they could fine Jamal Murray.
Yeah.
I saw people online last night.
Yep.
He should be suspended for Game 3.
Stop right there. I've seen that a lot, too. Wolves fans, take a deep breath. You don't want that. You don't want Jamal Murray suspended, okay? Because they're playing him. Clearly, anybody who's watched or followed Jamal or follows the steam on the calf, he borderline should not be playing now. Every jump shot he takes is off 1 foot. Who does that? Okay, he's favoring something dramatically, and it's hindering what they're trying to do offensively because Jokic is the one, but he's the 1A. So if they suspend him, they suspend him. But I ain't tripping at all on Jamal Murray.
Well, and the key, so if they're not going to assess Mike Malone that tech, in some ways, there is a victory to be had in that moment as he lost his freaking mind.
Unbelievable.
Zero composure, zero poise, not galvanizing force. Let's calm down. Everybody come together. Yeah. Walk out on the court and scream a little bit.
Yep.
Go be like Celtics coach running across the freaking court and stopping a free throw. Joe Mazzulla, I think that's his name.
Well done.
Go do it all day. That's fine. We'll just keep shutting you down and handling business.
Well, I heard this on the power trip today, but like the officials report after the game, Mark Davis, the lead official, he was the one Malone was yelling at. Now, Davis was not looking at Malone. Okay, and there were players walking around, and it was loud.
Aaron Gordon right up in that mix, yeah.
But the other two refs absolutely had to see what was happening, and they opted to not assess a technical foul on Mike Malone, which is embarrassing. But Davis, after the game, in the post-game officials report, he said something paraphrasing along the lines of like, that Malone was frustrated with his team or how his team was playing and calls that he feels didn't go his way, thus, whatever. I think they conceded, something should have been called. But a National Basketball Association referee dropped in the post-game officials report. He was frustrated with the way his team was playing. Are you kidding me with that? Beautiful.
Talkback machine.
Yeah, Nordo, CJ.
Hey.
Arthila. You know, yesterday I said Wolves in 5. Today I'm thinking it's Wolves in 4. Definitely heading back to Minnesota. That defense is wild. Anthony Edwards is still wild. Go Wolves. Wolves in 4.
I mean, how can it not be? I mean, I'm not going to be grandiose cartoon character, grandstanding puppet here, but we're all watching the same thing. And the soon-to-be NBA's Defensive Player of the Year the stifling nature of Rudy Gobert, the last line of defense that clearly is working at an incredibly high level, was a game day scratch. So you lose the NBA's Defensive Player of the Year, and you play collectively the best defense in a game in the history of Minnesota Timberwolves basketball. That's potentially.
They did it for Rudy.
But they did it for Rudy. They did it for whomever. They did it.
How about Rudy, by the way? Welcomes new baby into the world, sitting in a clearly undersized chair in the recovery room with his gal. Baby chilling out. He's uncomfortable watching the Wolves do what they did last night. I bet they absolutely came together for Rudy.
And I don't get the wind bit. You know, like I've flown into Denver so many times that when you get by the Rockies, you get jostled around with some moderate chop.
Always.
Now, if you're on...
Like Vegas, too, coming on the backside of those mountains, you feel it almost every time.
If you're on a PJ, a private jet, which he probably would have been, maybe given how small they are, it's different with the velocity of the wind and or the chop or whatever. But I was surprised when I heard, with the weather around Denver and stuff, he couldn't get in there. No Rudy, no problem, which is absolutely astounding with the way they played last night. It is a two-topic Timberwolves Talker Tuesday, and the second topic involves the Minnesota Vikings and a weekly guest and a Minnesota sports fan, Ben Gessling, the scribe. He joins us in studio around the corner on KFAN.